Hi everybody, Stephanie here. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be using a really cool new technique. I don't know if I'm the first person to do this, probably not, but I thought it was really cool and I wanted to see what a wax kit could do with some embossing folders. So I picked up this wax kit on Amazon. It was $24. I've never used a wax kit before. And this one was a great deal. One of the things I really liked about it was because it had an electric wax warmer. Around paper crafting stuff, I didn't really want an open flame, so I was glad to be able to find this. And for $24, I think the price point is right. It came with all of those wax colors and everything. It came with envelopes. It came with a wax seal and a bunch of other accessories too. So I thought that was a pretty good deal. And I wanted to see what I might be able to make with it. My mind kind of was just going and going when I saw this. I know a lot of people have been getting into using the wax seals, but I wondered what else we could make with the wax that we get, because I always like to be able to use my craft supplies in more than one way. So I decided to get started, and the first thing that came to my mind was embossing folders. And I thought about embossing folders because I thought, embossing folders are kind of like just little molds, especially the 3D embossing folders. And as I went through this process, I found that the 3D embossing folders were definitely the way to go, even though I did use some regular embossing folders, which you will see as we go through this process as well. This was completely an experiment. I had no idea if this was going to work out, if I was going to ruin my embossing folder by doing this. But I went ahead and I put the wax into the little slots there where you can see the different images of different seashells. And this is a Spellbinders 3D embossing folder from their June collection, I believe. I'll link it down below. It's one of my favorites. It makes absolutely beautiful things, but what I really liked about it is that it makes these individual and very defined different seashells. And I thought this would be a perfect folder to use to try out this technique. And I found that it actually does come out of the embossing folder very, very easily. Once it's cooled down, it is not difficult to get out of it at all. There's no residue left. Didn't that seashell come out absolutely amazing? You can see all of the definition on there. And I'm going ahead and I'm trimming off the excess around it and just adding that back into the wax melt. I'd used a lot of different colors of wax melt altogether, but I actually found that it works best when you use a solid color. When you use lots of different colors, I find that the details kind of get a little bit lost because the colors make it kind of hard to see all of the details. So I do recommend just using one solid color. And I added a little bit of the gold pen there to give it a little bit more definition, and I thought that looked really nice. So I'm going ahead and I'm doing lots of other seashells so that I can have more embellishments for the cards that I'm going to make. I'm using lots of different colors and putting them together, but I do end up mixing them up with my tweezers there, and that ends up being just fine. The wax sticks to the tweezers a little bit, but once it's dry, it just comes right out. Same with the images within the embossing folder. They just pop right out once the wax is cooled down. This technique was really surprisingly easy. I was surprised that it worked as easily as it did. And like I said before, these 3D embossing folders come out really, really nice. I'm using the seashells here, and a little bit you'll see I'm going to use the snowflakes, which are also a 3D embossing folder, and then you'll see me using a leaf embossing folder, which is not a 3D embossing folder, and you'll kind of see the difference. The image is not as raised, it's not as defined, so if you're going to do this technique, I definitely recommend 3D embossing folders, and just look at how nice those came out. definitely don't have to add the gold or silver pen to this. I just find that it adds a little bit something extra. With the snowflake embossing folder here, I did end up just using a silver pen to go along with it. The snowflakes, I ended up just cutting out circles around them rather than trying to cut out more intricately, and I think that that worked well. You can do it either way. You could try and cut it out a little bit more intricately if you like, or another option would be to basically cover the entire background of the embossing folder and make a larger background with lots of different snowflakes all over it too. So these came out super easily again, and they do feel a little bit plasticky when you pull them out. They're very supple, very mobile, and they're not going to tear easily. Like I even tried to tear the little bit of excess pieces to be able to fit them back into the wax melt there, and it does not tear easily. So you don't need to worry when you are pulling it out of the embossing folder about tearing it, because it would be really hard to do so. I'm using the leaf embossing folder, which is not a 3D embossing folder, and I think you'll be able to see the difference. At least in person, the difference is a little bit more obvious. It's a lot flatter, it's definitely not as detailed, and it was a little bit difficult fussy cutting these. Maybe leaves were not the best option. Maybe the larger things like the shells and the snowflakes were a little bit better just because they were larger. So these did require quite a bit more fussy cutting. I'm using this other embossing folder, also a 3D embossing folder from Spellbinders that I got in their recent sale. And I'm just going to cover that with the unicorn ink, that is the Hero Arts ink, and I'm going to use some craft paper. I thought that it kind of gave it that sandy feel, but I wanted to be able to have a little bit more definition, which using the white ink on the embossing folder allows the definition to kind of come through with the image there. And I bought this specifically with using it with the seashells in mind. And, you know, I'd had this kind of idea that it looked like, you know, seashells being caught in the net. And I thought it was a really cool look. Able to get 2 card fronts out of that one embossing run that I did, and I'm going to go ahead and use these glimmer plates from Spellbinders as well, also from that same June collection, to make waves for one of the cards that I'm going to make. Now I'm adhering the shells embellishments just with regular glue, and I was a little worried that these might not work out well, especially because the back of the wax is very, very slippery, and then this is raised where the embossing is, so I thought maybe this is not going to work really well. I placed something heavy on it and let it sit for a while, and it did end up working fine. And there you can see I did the glimmer foiling with that foil plate, and it came with a die set that cuts that out very nicely. That glimmer foil set also came with a sentiment that says sending an ocean of thanks, so I thought that was perfect for this card. You can see there. Just cut that sentiment out with a little oval die, and I use the same sentiment for both of the cards that I'm going to make here. I didn't want to waste the foil, so I did use the reverse, and I'm not using it for this card, but I'll save it for another card. I like being able to use the reverse images and not waste foil that way. I'm just going to go ahead and put the finishing touches on this. Propped up the sentiment on some foam tape there, and then I go ahead and I'm going to add some jewel embellishments. I think the jewel embellishments look like they've been kind of caught up in the net as well, and just a variety of sizes there, and again, nothing special. This was just something that I had in my stash, but I think adding jewels and a little sparkle to everything gives it a little extra touch, which is always nice, and a little bit of extra interest. But this card already has a lot of interest with those shell embellishments that we made. And so these are the two cards that we completed today. I really like how they came out. I think those shell embellishments turned out really, really nice. I know I'm going to use this wax method again, and I'm going to be keeping my eye out for 3D embossing folders that this technique might work well with. What do you guys think? For the next card, I'm going to use some scrapbook paper background, and I'm using some white acrylic spray from Hero Arts that came with their recent winter kit to make it look like a bit of a snowy evening there. Just cutting down a black card base then, and then I'm going to adhere to that card front. I'm going to prop that card front up on some foam tape, and then I'm also going to add an interior sentiment. This is a Betterpress plate, which I really enjoy using on interior sentiments. I think that letterpress effect just makes a card look really classy, so I like using that. Focal image, I used this little polar bear that was from a sticker set that I got from a craft store a long time ago. It was just one that I had in my stash, and I thought it worked really well with this snowy night kind of image in the woods. Changing the snowflake embellishments in different spots and kind of just testing out to see how they look. And I ended up not using all of the snowflakes because I thought this configuration looked well. And similarly to the other one, it did seem like these might not stick, but once I put this down with a block over it, it ended up sticking just fine. I just had to leave it for a little bit. But when you do glue this down, you might get the sense like this is not going to stick because it's very slippery, but it does eventually. I think you might also be able to heat it from below and maybe have the wax adhere that way, but I might be a little afraid to lose some of the definition in the image that you made. And here is that finished card. That sentiment is a Spellbinders Betterpress sentiment as well. What do you guys think of this one? Our last card is going to be an autumn themed one, and I'm using that Falling Leaves embossing folder that I used to make the wax embellishments, and I'm using that for the background. My thought was to make kind of a wreath, and so I just took a die and drew around it, kind of in gold. That center embellishment, I decided I didn't want to end up using it. I wanted to use something else, but that's what that is there. I ended up taking it away, and I'm just arranging the leaves there. For other leaves in the wreath, I ended up using this punch, which is a Stampin' Up! Punch that I demonstrated in my other most recent video. And I like the way that these cut out a lot of different leaves all at once, so you can see the stack that I got there. And I just cut those out of different colored cardstock, vellum, some gold glitter cardstock, and I'm just kind of making a base for the wax embellishments, and these will be then underneath, and it kind of fills out the wreath quite a bit more. I attached the wax embellishments to little foam dots. I thought this was the easiest way, but you could use whatever type of adhesive you want. If you wanted to glue it down directly, you probably could. But I wanted those leaves underneath to be able to peek through a little bit more. Now for the center sentiment, I looked in my stash and I had this from the Spellbinders Serenade of Autumn collection, but then I decided to go with these Simon Hurley gourds that I had previously made in another video, and I thought those colors just went well with the wax leaves that I had already made. Now this does end up looking like a bit of a busy leaf pile, but I think it still came out pretty nice. In terms of sentiment, I decided to keep it simple. You can see I'm trying out a bunch of different ones there, and I decided to just go ahead and put like a "For You" in the corner. I used craft paper as the base of this because I thought that kind of brownish color, neutral color, worked well with the fall theme tones. that is our completed card. I really like how that came out. What do you guys think? What do you guys think about this wax embellishment technique? I think it's pretty cool. I think it's pretty fun. If you guys try it out, let me know, tag me in it. If this video was helpful to you, if you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, and share, and I look forward to seeing you for our next crafty fun.